I fucked up, and it's eating me alive. I'm Jack Harper, 50, used to be a bodyguard in Chicago, protecting the kind of people you read about in headlines. Back then, I thought I was untouchable, 6 feet, built like a tank, always scanning the room. But one job, one choice broke me. I covered up a crime for a client, thinking it was just business, just survival. I was wrong. Now, every creak in my apartment makes me jump, every shadow feels like it's coming for me. I'm not paranoid, but I check my locks 3 times a night. It was 8 years ago, guarding Evan Carter, some hotshot businessman with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. I was good at my job, kept him safe, kept his secrets. But that night at his estate, everything went to hell. Blood on the floor, a body, and me, standing there, choosing to hide it. I thought I was protecting him, saving my career. I didn't know the truth then, didn't know Evan wasn't the bad guy. That's the twist that keeps me up at night. I helped the wrong people. Looking back, I should have seen the signs. Evan's nervous tics, the way his sister Lila hovered like a vulture. But I was loyal, too loyal, to the agency, to the paycheck. My boss, Claire, made it clear, do the job, keep your mouth shut. I did. And now I'm here, alone, writing this like it'll fix anything. I'm not okay. I haven't been since that night. I keep wondering if they'll come for me, Lila, the agency, or someone worse. I'm not safe, and I don't deserve to be. I still see Evan's face, the way he looked at me, like he wanted to say something but couldn't. I didn't listen. I just acted, like a good soldier. The guilt's a knife in my gut, twisting every time I close my eyes. I don't know if I'm writing this to confess or to warn myself. Maybe both. All I know is, I'm not who I was. I'm just a guy who made the wrong call and can't outrun it. Here's what it was like before everything went to shit. I was 42, in my prime, working for Elite Protection in Chicago. The job was my life, guarding CEOs, politicians, the occasional rock star. I'd walk into a room, scan for exits, spot the guy with shifty eyes in 2 seconds flat. It felt good, like I was in control, like I was the one keeping the world from falling apart. My days were routine, check the client's schedule, scout venues, coordinate with my partner, Mike Torres. He was a solid guy, ex-cop, always cracking jokes to keep things light. We'd shadow our clients, blend into the background, and make sure nothing touched them. I thought I had it all figured out. Evan Carter was just another job at first. Mid-30s, sharp suit, ran some tech empire I didn't care to understand. He had this charm, like he could sell you your own shoes, but there was something off. He'd fidget with his cufflinks, glance over his shoulder when he thought no one was looking. I chalked it up to stress. Guys like him always had enemies. My job wasn't to ask questions, it was to keep him breathing. Claire, our manager, drilled that into us. Stay in your lane, Jack. So I did. I watched his back, drove him to meetings, stood outside hotel rooms while he closed deals. Normal, right? But looking back, there were cracks. Evan's sister, Lila, was always around, too close, whispering in his ear. She'd smile at me, all teeth, like she was sizing me up. I didn't trust her, but I didn't dwell on it. Mike would say, "Relax, Jack, she's just intense." I let it slide. The agency was good money, great benefits, and I wasn't about to rock the boat. I had a nice apartment, a gym routine, even a few dates that went nowhere. Life felt stable, like I'd built something solid. I'd tell myself I was untouchable, that I could handle anything. That's the lie I lived in. I ignored the way Evan's hands shook when Lila was near, or how he'd go quiet after her calls. I didn't notice the late-night meetings with shady types, the ones Claire told us to overlook. I was too busy playing the part, stoic, professional, in control. I thought I was protecting him, but I was just a cog in their machine. I didn't see it then, but those moments were warnings, little red flags I stepped over because I was too damn comfortable. I keep thinking about that version of me. The guy who thought he had it all together. I hate him. He's the one who let it all happen. Here's when it all started cracking. I was at Evan's estate, this sprawling mansion outside Chicago, all glass and steel, like something out of a movie. It was late, maybe 2 a.m., and I was on night shift with Mike. We were used to quiet nights, just patrolling, checking cameras. But that night, something felt off. The air was heavy, like a storm was coming. Evan had been jumpier than usual, pacing, muttering to himself. I caught him staring out a window, hands shaking, but when I asked if he was okay, he just nodded and walked away. I should have pushed, but I didn't. Then it happened. A scream, sharp, raw, not human at first. I bolted toward the sound, Mike right behind me. We found Evan in the study, blood on his shirt, a knife on the floor, and a guy I didn't recognize slumped in a chair, not moving. My heart was pounding, but training kicked in. I checked the guy's pulse, nothing. Evan was frozen, eyes wide, like he was somewhere else. Lila burst in, all panic and tears, saying it was an intruder, that Evan acted in self-defense. My gut screamed something was wrong, but Claire's voice was in my head. Protect the client, Jack. No questions. So I did what I was trained to do. I told Mike to wipe the cameras. We dragged the body to a shed out back, covered it with a tarp. Lila was on the phone, talking fast, saying she'd handle it. I kept looking at Evan, waiting for him to explain, but he just stared at the floor. I told myself it was a clean job, intruder, self-defense, case closed. But the way Lila took over, the way Evan wouldn't meet my eyes and nod at me. Why was the knife so clean? Why didn't Evan call for us first? By dawn, the body was gone, handled by some cleaners, Lila called. Claire showed up, all business, telling us to keep our mouths shut. You did good, Jack, she said, but her eyes were cold. Mike clapped my shoulder, said we dodged a bullet. But I didn't feel good. I felt dirty, like I'd crossed a line I couldn't uncross. I kept seeing that guy's face, wondering who he was, what he'd done. I told myself I was just doing my job, but doubt was creeping in, like water through a crack. I'd protected Evan, sure, but at what cost? I was starting to question everything, him, Lila, the agency. Myself most of all. I told myself it was just one bad night. I'd been a bodyguard for over a decade, seen plenty of messed up shit, clients doing coke, cheating, screaming at their kids. You learn to look the other way, keep it professional. That night with Evan, the blood, the body, it was just another job gone sideways, right? I kept replaying it, trying to make it fit. Lila said it was self-defense, and Claire backed her up. You did what you had to, Jack, Claire told me the next day, her voice flat, like she was reading a script. I wanted to believe her. I needed to. But it wasn't sitting right. I'd catch myself staring at my hands, like I could still feel the tarp's rough edges from dragging that body. I'd see Evan's face, not scared but blank, like he was waiting for someone to tell him what to feel. I tried talking to Mike about it, just once. Something's off, man, I said, keeping it vague. He laughed it off, said I was overthinking, that we'd saved Evan's ass and kept our jobs. Don't go digging, Jack. You'll bury yourself. His tone was light, but his eyes weren't. Claire called me in a week later, sat me down in her office, all sleek furniture and no warmth. You're not getting soft, are you? She asked, like she could smell the doubt on me. I shook my head, said I was fine, but my stomach was in knots. She leaned in, told me the agency didn't need heroes, just guys who follow orders. Evan's fine, the situation's handled. Let it go. I nodded, but her words felt like a shove, like she was daring me to push back. I didn't. I couldn't afford to lose the gig, bills, rent, the life I'd built. Looking back, I was drowning in denial. I'd tell myself the guy in the chair was a threat, that Evan had no choice, that I was just doing my job. But at night, alone, the questions crept in. Why didn't Evan call for us? Why was Lila so quick to take charge? I felt like I was betraying myself, ignoring my gut to keep the peace. The shame was heavy, like a coat I couldn't take off. I'd protected Evan, but I was starting to wonder if I'd protected a lie. I wasn't just confused. I was scared of what I'd find if I looked too close. The weeks after that night were like walking through fog. I went through the motions, guarding Evan, checking exits, keeping my head down, but the questions wouldn't quit. I started noticing things I'd brushed off before. Evan was a mess, worse than I'd ever seen. He'd flinch when his phone rang, spill coffee because his hands shook so bad. Once, I caught him staring at a wall, muttering, "I didn't want this." I asked what he meant, but he just shook his head, said it was nothing. I knew better. My gut was screaming, but I kept my mouth shut, scared of what I'd lose if I spoke up. Lila was everywhere now, like a shadow that wouldn't leave. She'd show up at Evan's meetings, cutting him off mid-sentence, her voice all honey but her eyes like knives. One day, I overheard her on the phone outside Evan's office saying, "It's handled, just keep them out of it." Who was them? I didn't know, but it felt like a noose tightening. I told Mike about it, hoping he'd back me up. He just shrugged, said, "Lila's intense, man. Let her do her thing." His nonchalance pissed me off, but I didn't push. I was starting to feel alone in this. Then there was the night at the hotel. Evan had a late meeting, some investor types. I was outside the suite when I heard raised voices, Evan's, shaky, and Lila's, sharp. I cracked the door, saw her grab his arm, hissing, "You don't get to walk away." He looked trapped, like a kid caught in a fight he couldn't win. I should have stepped in, but Claire's warning echoed, "Stay in your lane." So I closed the door, stood there like a coward. Later, Evan came out, pale, avoiding my eyes. I noticed a bruise on his wrist, faint but there. I didn't ask. I should have. The red flags were piling up, and I was running out of ways to ignore them. The agency was too quiet, like they were waiting for something to blow over. Mike started acting weird, checking his phone constantly, avoiding me after shifts. I kept thinking about that body, the knife, Lila's quick cleanup. What was I part of? I wanted to confront Evan, demand answers, but every time I got close, fear stopped me, fear of losing my job, my life, or worse, finding out I'd helped cover something uglier than I could handle. I was stuck, watching the truth slip through my fingers, knowing I wasn't ready to grab it. I couldn't keep pretending anymore. It was a month after that night at the estate, and I was unraveling. Evan was a ghost of himself, barely speaking, eyes hollow like he hadn't slept in weeks. I was on edge, jumping at every noise, my gut screaming that I'd fucked up worse than I knew. Then it all came crashing down. It was a rainy night, and we were at Evan's downtown penthouse. I was checking the perimeter when I heard shouting, Lila's voice, vicious, and Evan's broken. I didn't think, just moved, bursting into the living room. Lila had Evan pinned against the wall, her finger in his face, spitting words like venom. "You think you can ruin this? After everything we did for you?" Evan was shaking, tears streaming, muttering apologies. I froze, my brain scrambling to make sense of it. Then Lila saw me. Her face changed, all fake calm, but her eyes were daggers. "Jack, this is private," she said like I was the help. Something snapped in me. I stepped forward, told her to back off. She laughed, cold and sharp, and that's when it spilled out. "Evan didn't kill that guy," she sneered. "He was just the idiot holding the knife when we needed a fall guy." My stomach dropped. I looked at Evan, waiting for him to deny it, but he just slid to the floor, sobbing. Lila kept going, like she was proud. "The guy in the chair? A loose end in their family's shady business, some deal gone wrong. Evan was coerced, threatened into taking the blame, and I'd helped cover it up." I felt sick, like the room was spinning. I'd protected a lie, buried a body for people who used Evan like a pawn. I grabbed Lila's arm. Not hard but enough to make her flinch. "What the hell did you make him do?" I growled. She yanked free, said I'd regret sticking my nose in. Evan finally looked at me, his voice barely a whisper. "I didn't want to, Jack. They made me." That was it, the truth I'd been dodging. I wasn't just a bodyguard, I was an accomplice. My hands were shaking, but I knew I couldn't walk away anymore. I told Evan to stay put, that I'd figure this out. Lila just smirked, like she knew I was in over my head. She was right, but I was done being their puppet. The air felt different after that night, like I was breathing through a straw. I'd crossed the line, calling out Lila, and there was no going back. The next morning, Claire summoned me to the agency's office. No coffee, no small talk, just her behind that desk, eyes like ice. "You're out, Jack," she said, voice flat. "You've been asking too many questions." I tried to argue, but she cut me off. "You think you're a hero? You're a liability. My badge, my gun, my access, gone." Just like that, 15 years of my life were ashes. I walked out, head spinning, wondering how it came to this. Mike was waiting outside, leaning on his car, looking like he hadn't slept either. "You should have let it go, man," he said, not meeting my eyes. I asked if he knew about Evan, about Lila's game. He shrugged, muttered something about following orders. That's when I saw it. He wasn't my friend anymore, just another cog. He warned me to keep quiet, said the agency had ways of dealing with loose ends. "Don't make this worse for yourself," he said, then drove off. I stood there, rain soaking my jacket, feeling like I'd been gut-punched. Lila didn't let up either. I got a text from an unknown number that night. Stay out of it, or you're next. No signature, but I knew her venom. I started sleeping with my old service pistol under my pillow, checking my rearview mirror every 5 seconds. Evan was gone, whisked away to some secure location, Claire said. I didn't buy it. I kept picturing him, trapped, those hollow eyes begging for help I didn't give. The guilt was a weight, crushing me. I'd failed him, and now I was alone, no job, no backup, just threats and shadows. I tried calling a few old contacts, guys I'd worked with, but they all ghosted me. The agency had spread the word, Jack Harper was trouble. My apartment felt like a cage, every noise a threat. I was cut off, betrayed by the life I'd built, and the only one I could blame was myself. I kept thinking about Evan, wondering if he was still alive, if I could have done more. The fallout wasn't just losing my job, it was losing who I thought I was. And the worst part? I knew they weren't done with me. I was done hiding. The threats, the isolation, the guilt, it was all closing in, and I couldn't breathe anymore. I had to do something, anything, to make this right. I got a tip from an old contact, a guy who owed me from way back. He said Evan was at a safe house on the edge of the city, under Lila's watch. No agency, no Claire, just her and some hired muscle. My blood ran cold. I knew what it meant. They were tying up loose ends, and Evan was one of them. I grabbed my gun, a burner phone, and headed out, heart pounding like I was back on my first job. The safe house was a rundown warehouse in an industrial park, all rusted metal and broken windows. I parked a block away, scoped it out. 2 guys at the entrance, armed, not pros but mean. I saw Lila's car, sleek and out of place. My gut told me Evan was inside, and time was running out. I didn't have a plan, just a need to get to him. I slipped through a side gate, sticking to shadows, my old training kicking in like muscle memory. Every step felt like a countdown. Inside, it was dark, damp, the air thick with dust. I heard voices, Lila's sharp and Evan's weak. I crept closer, saw them in a back room. Evan was tied to a chair, bruised, head slumped. Lila was pacing, barking orders at a guy with a gun. Finish it, she said. I didn't think, just acted. I rushed the guy, tackled him before he could react. The gun skidded across the floor. Lila screamed, lunged for it, but I was faster, pinning her against the wall. No more, I growled. Evan looked up, eyes wide, like he couldn't believe I was there. For the first time, I saw it all clearly. Lila wasn't just protecting the family's secrets, she was running the show, using Evan as a puppet to cover their tracks. I'd been blind, following orders, thinking I was saving him when I was just her tool. I cut Evan loose, told him to run. He hesitated, whispered, "They'll find me." I shoved him toward the door, said I'd handle it. Lila was cursing, promising I'd pay. I didn't care. In that moment, under all that pressure, I knew who I was, not a hero, not a pawn, but a guy trying to fix his mess. I had Evan's back, even if it was too late. I knew I was in deep, but I couldn't stop now. Evan was out the door, stumbling into the night, and I had Lila pinned, her wrists digging into my grip. Her face was all venom, no fear, like she knew she'd slip out of this. "You're dead, Jack," she hissed. "You think you can touch me and walk away?" I didn't answer, just held her there, my heart hammering. I needed answers, not threats. I dragged her to a corner, away from the goon I'd knocked out, and sat her down. "Talk," I said, voice low, my gun in my hand but not raised. I wasn't a killer, but I needed her to believe I could be. She laughed, that same cold laugh, but I saw a flicker in her eyes, maybe doubt. "What do you want, Jack? To play hero? Evan's weak, always was. He'd have broken without us." I pressed her, asked about the guy in the chair, the deals, the threats. She didn't flinch, just spilled it like she was bragging. Their family was deep in some dirty money, drugs, payoffs, you name it. The guy I helped bury? A rival who got too close. Evan was their scapegoat, doped up and scared, made to hold the knife so they could claim self-defense. I felt sick, realizing how far I'd fallen, how I'd helped them. I didn't have a plan, just a fire in my chest. I told her I'd go to the cops, expose everything. She smirked, said I had no proof, that the agency would bury me before I got close. Maybe she was right, but I was done being scared. I leaned in close, told her I'd find a way to make her pay, not with lawyers or headlines, but by making sure Evan stayed free. I tied her hands with some cable I found, left her there with her goon. It wasn't justice, but it was a start. I slipped out, knowing I'd just painted a target on my back. Driving away, I kept checking my mirrors, half expecting a car to tail me. I didn't know where Evan went, but I hoped he'd keep running. I'd taken a stand, maybe for the first time in years, but it felt like stepping off a cliff. Lila's words echoed. I wouldn't walk away. But I had to try, for Evan, for the guy I used to be. I wasn't sure what came next, but I knew I'd fight like hell to keep her from winning. I thought taking a stand would feel like something, freedom, maybe, or redemption. It didn't. It felt like falling, endless and raw, with no bottom in sight. I'd let Evan go, tied up Lila, walked away from that warehouse, but nothing was fixed. My apartment was a prison now, every creak a warning. I'd burned my bridges with the agency, with Mike, with the life I knew. My phone was silent, no calls, no jobs, just the occasional burner text. You can't hide. I didn't know if it was Lila, Claire, or someone new, but it kept me up, checking locks, peering out windows. I tried tracking Evan, hoping he'd made it out. I called shelters, hospitals, even a sketchy bar he'd mentioned once. Nothing. He was a ghost, and I was left wondering if I'd saved him or sent him to a worse fate. The guilt was heavier now, mixed with dread. I kept seeing Lila's smirk, like she knew they'd outlast me. I found a crumpled note in my jacket, must have been from Evan that night. Don't trust her. Too late for that. I'd trusted the wrong people from the start, and now I was paying for it. The agency didn't let up. My bank account was frozen, some clerical error, they said, but I knew better. My landlord got a call, suddenly antsy about my lease. I saw the same black SUV parked across my street too many times, tinted windows, no plates. I wasn't paranoid. I was hunted. I started carrying my gun everywhere, even to grab coffee. One night, someone jimmied my door, nothing taken, just a message, "We can get to you." I didn't sleep after that, just sat in the dark, waiting. I wanted to fight back, expose them, but Lila was right, no proof. No body, no witnesses, just my word against theirs. I thought about running, starting over somewhere, but that felt like giving up on Evan, on myself. I made a choice to help him, and it was all I had left. The fallout wasn't just losing my life, it was living with the truth that I'd helped bury a man, that I'd failed Evan until it was too late. I was stuck, waiting for their next move, knowing it was coming, and all I could do was brace for it. I'm not safe, and I never will be. It's been weeks since I walked out of that warehouse, since I cut Evan loose and left Lila tied up. I keep waiting for something to change, for some sign that I made a difference, but there's nothing. Just silence, heavy and thick, like the air before a storm. I don't know if Evan's alive, if he's running or caught or worse. I check my burner phone daily, hoping for a message, a clue, anything. It stays quiet. The not knowing is worse than the threats, worse than the black SUV that still parks down my street some nights. I've stopped looking for redemption. I thought saving Evan would fix me, erase the guilt of that night I helped bury a body. It didn't. I see that guy's face in my dreams, hear Evan's whisper. They made me. I see Lila's smirk, Claire's cold eyes, Mike's betrayal. I was part of their machine, and even now, free of it, I'm marked. My apartment's a fortress, new locks, cameras, a knife by the bed, but it's not enough. I know they can get to me. They already have, in a way, because I can't shake the feeling that I'm still their pawn. I tried to make things right, but right doesn't exist here. I walk the city, eyes darting, always checking shadows, exits, faces. I don't trust anyone anymore, not the barista who knows my order, not the neighbor who waves. I keep my gun close, sleep in snatches, wake at every sound. I'm not living, I'm surviving, and barely. The irony cuts deep. I spent my life protecting others, and now I can't protect myself. I don't regret helping Evan, but I regret thinking it would end there. It never ends. I'm writing this because I need to, because maybe someone will read it and understand. I'm not a hero, not a victim, just a guy who saw too much and did too little, too late. I don't expect forgiveness, not from Evan, not from myself. I just keep moving, waiting for the day they come for me. And they will. Until then, I'm stuck in this half-life, haunted by my own choices. I still check the back seat every time I get in my car.